Labor News Conference. Welcome to another edition of Labor News Conference, a public affairs program brought to you by the AFL-CIO. Labor News Conference brings together leading AFL-CIO representatives and ranking members of the press. Today's guest is Lawrence Smedley, Associate Director of the AFL-CIO's Department of Social Security. Most Americans would probably think of age 65 as being the normal retirement age, and would be surprised to learn that retirement before age 65 is now the norm, not the exception. Improving the opportunities for early retirement is now a major aim of union contract negotiations, as well as a topic of congressional concern as it relates to the Social Security system. Here to question Mr. Smedley about the patterns of early retirement, what has led to the dramatic changes in those patterns in recent years, and further developments that can and should be expected, are Theodore Schuchat, syndicated columnist for the North American Newspaper Alliance, and Philip Kaitis, financial writer for the Washington Star-News. Frank Harden speaking, and now, Mr. Kaitis, I believe you have the first question.
Well, if 65 isn't the normal retirement age or the average retirement age, what is the current pattern for retirement?
Well, Mr. Kaitis, it's not possible to give a precise figure as to the average age of retirement. We do know, using the Social Security system, which is because of its universality, gives a pretty good indication that right now about 70% of the men are retiring on Social Security before the age of 65. And when you consider that most wives retire at the time of their husbands do, and therefore usually at a younger age, we're getting to the point where many of our retirees are spending a fourth and even a third of their lifetimes in retirement.
Does this mean that those who are retiring early are dependent primarily on Social Security, or does this indicate that it's for their retirement funds, or does this indicate that they have other funds, other pension funds, that makes it possible for them to retire early?
Well, the estimates are that about 20% of retirees have a supplemental pension, but most of those pensions are not large. Many retirees have some assets or some savings at the time of retirement, but the single biggest source of funds for retirees is their Social Security benefit.
Well, Mr. Smedley, if people are retiring earlier, and most of them without substantial pensions to supplement their Social Security payments, what is the reason for this early retirement?
Well, there are a number of reasons from the Social Security studies have shown. The single biggest cause, Mr. Schuchat, is poor health. And a worker who incurs some kind of a physical or ailment finds it difficult to handle his job, has no option but to take early retirement. It's difficult to find another job at that age, and with unemployment running around 5 to 6%. So the single biggest factor is still about is poor health, probably a little better than half. The second one, and one that is growing, a small minority, probably around 20%, are people who voluntarily want to retire. And these are usually people with supplemental sources of income, primarily a second private pension. We do know that a person who has a private pension in addition to Social Security is 2.5 times more apt to want to retire than one who does not have a supplemental pension.
Have other government programs, say for example Medicare, been a factor in the incidence of, or the rising incidence of early retirement now that medical costs can be offset under this program?
I don't think Medicare has been a factor if you, in terms of retirement, if you think in terms of retirement, early retirement as age 65, because Medicare is not available before the age of 65, and one of the problems of people who have to retire, and that's a majority of them, for reasons of ill health, is a lack of adequate health coverage at those ages. And one of the things the AFL-CIO would like to do is to provide early retirees with Medicare coverage.
Isn't that a feature of the law at present? That is, the people below the retirement age who are seriously disabled are now eligible for Medicare, are they not?
Yeah, if the person who is severely enough disabled, they could receive Medicare if they receive Social Security disability benefits. But the definition of disability is so strict in the law that most of those people who retire early because of health reasons have to take a actuarially reduced Social Security benefit and are not eligible for a disability benefit. And one of the things the AFL-CIO is advocating is to liberalize the disability definition of in the Social Security law, so that people who retire before 65 for reasons of health, if they were unable to handle their usual occupation, would be eligible for disability benefits and would not have a severe actuarial reduction that they now have to live on after they retire.
Mr. Smedley, you mentioned the actuarial reduction, that is the smaller monthly Social Security payment on the assumption that the individual receives it over a longer period of time. Now, there is in the law also a recent provision which raises the Social Security payment each month depending upon the deferment of retirement after age 65. How is that provision working out in the law? Does that induce people to continue working if they're healthy?
I would say that it would be some inducement. It's 1% a year, 1/12 of 1% for each month that you work after age 65. Your Social Security benefit is increased. I would say this probably is somewhat of an inducement for people to continue working after 65. But you must remember, Mr. Schuckett, that 70% of the men are retiring before the age of the 65, and women, I believe the figure is even higher. So that it has not had much, and that figure has increased since that provision was put in the law. So I don't think it's had a significant impact on changing the trends.
Do you see this trend increasing? Do you expect that more people will be retiring before age 65 than the current numbers, and if so, why?
I would think the trend will, at least in the short run, increase. I think the recent the pension legislation that's now pending in Congress, which will provide for vesting and other pension standards, will mean that more and more people will have a supplemental pension in addition to Social Security. So I think the number of people who voluntarily will want to retire will increase. And there is a very strong correlation, almost a straight line correlation, between people who want to retire and the level of income. As the level of income goes up, retirement income available goes up, the number of people who voluntarily want to retire increases almost in a straight line correlation.
Mr. Smedley, is early retirement, the trend for early retirement, good for the country? That is, we can agree it would be beneficial to the people. Those with sufficient income and or poor health seem to choose it. But is it good for the country? Aren't we getting into a situation where we're going to have more non-workers than workers in the society?
Well, you're right. We are concerned about the problem of early retirement, particularly to the extent it's involuntary. For example, only 2 decades ago, Mr. Schuckett, a majority of all men over 65 were still in the workforce. Now only a fourth are, and I think the Census Bureau estimates that this will decline to close to 1/5 by 1980. And I saw Bureau of Labor Statistics estimates not too long ago where they said that 1977 will probably be the first year in which where there will be fewer people over 45 in the workforce than out. So I think this is significant. I think the greatest advance that could be made to enable older workers to continue working would be full employment opportunities for everyone. I think what is needed is jobs for all who want and need them. And no age group, either young or old, should have to bear the burden of unemployment. And I think a big factor in this would be better economic conditions where more older people could remain in the labor force and continue working if they wanted to do so. And on the other hand, we think people who have poor health, which is a very large reason for early retirement, should have the Social Security law amended to help them when they have to leave the labor force because of health conditions. And we think that people should have they want to retire after a lifetime of work, should have that option. But we are concerned about people being involuntarily retired from the labor force when it isn't, when they don't want to, and it isn't necessary.
You talk about unemployment and its relation to early retirement. Is there any hard evidence? Are there any figures that indicate that the higher the level of unemployment, the higher the early retirement rate is?
Yes, there is some indications that when the unemployment rate goes up, the tendency to retire, apply for early retirement benefits also goes up because older workers who are laid off have very little choice. It's pretty hard for them to find a job, and disability benefits generally increase a little in times of higher unemployment. People make applications for disability benefits because a lot of older people have chronic health conditions, and when they get laid off, they try and apply for disability benefits. So there is an indication of a relationship between early retirement and unemployment.
Mr. Smedley, there's been some reportage recently, some reporting about at least new interest in the possible financial problems facing the whole Social Security system. The argument is made that the population is getting older, the birth rate has gone down, there are going to be fewer younger people around to make payments into the system. Those who are currently retiring early, even though they may not draw as much from the system as they might if they had retired at age 65, are not paying into it while they are retired early. Is there reason to be concerned about the soundness, the financial soundness of the Social Security system under these conditions?
I think there's some of the reports on the situation have been greatly exaggerated. It is true that the Social Security estimates, on the actuarial estimates on the amount of tax that would need to be collected to pay for the benefits, was based upon a lower birth rate, on a higher birth rate than is now the case. We are now down to 2.1 per family, children per family, which is nearly zero population growth. Now, if this were to continue, I believe the trustees of the Social Security system estimate that they might, within 10 years, have to raise the Social Security tax 0.5 on both the employer and employee. Well, that's 50 cents on $100. So while that's unfortunate, if it were to occur, I don't think that it is as alarming a problem that is as has been reported in the press.
But Mr. Smedley, doesn't it pose a problem also in view of the what apparently is going to be the continuing inflation? That is, it would put great pressure on the trustees and on the Congress to hold down future increases in benefits, Social Security benefits, which are under the present law supposed to be automatic.
Yes, they are automatic in the present law. Now, it's a question of whether the inflation rates will go back to the historical pattern of relationship of wage increases to price increases. Most economists think in a year or two that will occur. If this were to be a long-term trend, of course, it would create a problem for making improvements in law over and above what already exists. I think they could handle the increases, the cost of living increases in the Social Security system. But I think there would be problems of making other improvements in the law because it would be costly. Now, this is, of course, if this were to occur, it would be a problem that private pension systems would also have to face in making their actuarial estimates. I don't think it will last. I think also that we can look forward in the future to a lower unemployment rate than we've had of 5 to 6%. If you would have a full employment rate of 2 to 3%, of course you would have a lot of additional people remain in the labor force that you do not now have in the labor force. I think you will have an increasing number of women increasing the size of the labor force so that we don't have to rely entirely on the birth rate. In fact, as the birth rate drops, it will enable more and more women to come into the labor force. And additional, as a result of the drop in unemployment rate, I think you would have additional income generated for which society could spend it for whether for retirement or for other social needs. So I don't think the problem is quite as bad as some people have characterized it.
Well, now, in view of the pressures on the trust fund and on the payroll tax that you've mentioned, are there alternatives? Instead of taking more out of the workers' pay and the employer's payroll, are there some alternatives to finance improvements in the system?
Oh, yes. I mean, I think that the time has come, Mr. Schuckett, when we could use some general revenue. In other words, funds raised by the general taxation and hopefully raised by a more progressive taxation system, and use these funds as put into the trust fund by congressional appropriation. This is done in many European systems.
This has not heretofore been done with our system, however. That's been considered; those funds have been considered sort of sacrosanct.
Yeah, you have to a very limited extent for the service of military service. They put in some general revenue to pick that up. Congress did. And for some special benefits for people over 62 who had never had Social Security coverage, Congress picked that up by general revenue. And you do have a Part B premium, which is matched by the employee, by the individual retiree and the federal government. It's a separate fund, but half of that cost is paid by general revenue of the federal government. So we do have general revenue financing to a limited extent already in the Social Security system. And so the principle has been established, and it's a matter of broadening that principle. And as I say, this is a pattern that has been adopted in European countries. And it's ironic that the Committee on Economic Security that drafted the original Social Security Act, which President Roosevelt then submitted to Congress, said that they expected the system would have to use general revenue around the year 1965. So we're beyond the time that they estimated that we really needed it.
Mr. Smedley, through the Social Security system, workers, in effect, invest part of their pay every week in their futures. Are they getting a good investment?
Oh, yes, particularly those retiring now. I mean, there's, as you understand, Mr. Schuckett, there's somewhat of intergenerational transfer here, that a portion, a good portion of the cost of the retirement of retirees today is paid by the present working force, so that the individual who retires today gets back a great deal more than he has put in. That each generation that ages also has that same advantage, so that he will also receive more than he put in terms of benefits. Now, only a social insurance can do this. A private insurance system couldn't.
Thank you, gentlemen. Today's Labor News Conference guest was Lawrence Smedley, Associate Director of the AFL-CIO's Department of Social Security. Representing the press were Philip Katis, financial writer for the Washington Star-News, and Theodore Schuckett, syndicated columnist for the North American Newspaper Alliance. This is Frank Harden speaking and inviting you to listen again next week. Labor News Conference is a public affairs production of the AFL-CIO, produced in cooperation with the Mutual Broadcasting System.